going on, Viking fans? Welcome to the Purple People Podcast. Can you believe it? Look down at that. 598 episodes.
It's way too many.
It is way too many. But we love you guys. And we thank you for listening to our nonsense. Fellas, how we doing?
I'm doing all right. We were supposed to get about a foot of snow yesterday, and we got nothing.
Well, we got all of it, Adam. Of course, then today it's like 47 outside, and like it already half of it melted. It's weird. It's bizarre.
Yeah, I don't want to make you guys angry with the weather here in Virginia. So I hope that it gets warmer where you guys are. Question mark. I'm Ron Burgundy. No, it's not bad. It's chilly in the morning and hot outside here. So I guess that's spring. Also, within the last 2 weeks, I didn't know that we sprang forward. I got no notice of this. I wish that we would had some kind of like warning. Maybe we could just do away with that like we were supposed to last
You
year.
need a better meme for the spring ahead, because we get chair for the turn back time, but for spring we get nothing.
Right. Yeah. I feel like we could just pick one and stick with it. Like the rest of the world doesn't do it. So
We're making fun of AI before we started recording, but I will say that I enjoy our phones just automatically taking care of themselves on daylight savings time now. Like, I don't remember the last time I've adjusted a clock.
Oh, I do my one in the car all the time.
I like it. What's up, Sergio? MC Sports is here.
Because I can't have the clock in my car being wrong. That just don't work for me.
It bothers me too, Adam. I can do it in the house. I don't stare at
in the house. I don't care. Like the microwave, I think it says like 3 o'clock right now. I don't care about that.
Yeah, I'm not staring at the clock on the microwave. I have to constantly check while I'm driving, though. I get that. I'm with you on that. MC Sports is here. Sergio is here. What's up, fellas? This team is looking really good. My only concern is if JJ will be able to be the quarterback we want him to be. Well, we can start there. Don't give up on him. There will be growing pains. I think, and this is just like diving headfirst into the deep end, I think he's going to have a major reality check because he only lost one game in college. And this is not a knock on Kevin O'Connell nor the Vikings, but this ain't Michigan. This ain't Jim Harbaugh, running it along.
Texas.
And this is not a team that's going to run the ball 40 times and you're only going to throw it 5. Like, I don't see that being it.
I don't know. With Minnesota's running backs now, they might be able to.
I like them, but I don't know if I trust them that much.
And also, if J.J. McCarthy starts struggling, pull him and put Brett Rippon in there, and you're good to go.
We've solved all the issues. Let's dive into it, guys. The Vikings made a choice this week. If you didn't hear and you've been living under a rock, there was Aaron Rodgers rumors so much around the major sport networks that they were actually heavily talking about this, not because of the Vikings, but because it's Aaron Rodgers. He is seemingly down to the Pittsburgh Steelers and the New York Giants. I don't know. I never once wanted to believe that he was even a viable option here. 5 years ago, I would have been ecstatic to invite him over and complete the Brett Favre legacy. But
I mean, I do think it's something the Vikings had to discuss, though.
Absolutely. I think there was a talk, but I was praying in my mind, like, please don't let this happen. It's just not – he's just a shell of himself. I told Adam this in the chat, and I'll say, what I said here is I see a guy who doesn't want to get hit, which is fine. Favre said that too, which is ironic how much he's turned into Brett Favre.
Yeah.
And because of his whole entire career, which is the most amazing thing about him, he's got great accuracy, he's very smart, all that, but his ability not to turn the ball over, that's the anti-Favre in him. I'm not going to force a turnover hardly ever. He's had many seasons where it's like 4 or 5 interceptions, right?
It's funny, though, you hear the defenders being like, but Aaron Rodgers looked good towards the end of the season. Yeah. What was the Jets playing for? They had nothing on the line. He could just go out and sling it.
Correct.
And he had wide receivers at that point. He didn't have trash cans to be throwing to. That was something Jeremiah Searle said on the O-Line podcast, is that it's not like he was throwing to random guys. He had talent around him. He had, one 300-yard passing game last season? One?
Yeah, I think so. I think you're right, Adam. And the games that did matter, he looked pretty bad and rough in the beginning. And part of that is the Favre quality he has of like, I don't want to come to training camp. Well, you got to get on. You got to get on board. That's such diva behavior, which I am vehemently against. But yeah, saying
Like how Adrian Peterson skipped training camp almost every year.
oh, fuck, man. It's you got to have that camaraderie there. Like, I get it. If you're 40, you're like, well, I've done this a bunch. Yeah, but football's not a game where you're just going to slide right in and be awesome. Like that rarely happens. And you see what happens when you try to do it consistently. Favre had the great year in '09, and then he looked like absolute doo-doo the next year. And the team.
But your 21st season, you got to kind of be like, okay, this again.
Oh, sure, I can empathize with it, but that's
there
the
is
risk
a bit
you
of
take.
there is a bit of a difference, I think, anyway, between your Chad Greenways, your Jared Allens, and even you lump Brett Favre in on that too, coming to a new team of being like, all right, I'm going to skip out part of training camp because I've done my time. I've been with this organization for a long time, and Favre had been around the league long enough that like he earned that respect, and I guess you can say Aaron Rodgers has earned that respect to kind of maybe sit out of training camp as well too. The issue with Rodgers is that off the field, people have very strong opinions on him one way or another.
Yep.
And I think that the goodwill leeway that you have with Brett Favre, which I know that that's a statement that has not aged too well, but back in '09, that was a lot more valid thing that you could say, is that you don't have that as much with Aaron Rodgers. You have people who are going to be split on him no matter what, one way or another. And I don't think that that's good for a locker room. Like when Brett Favre came into this team in 2009, he was like, the team rallied behind him. There was no one in camp Sage Rosenfeld's, camp Tavares Jackson, like, we need them to be our starter. Like, it was, you rallied behind Brett Favre. And I don't think that if you brought Aaron Rodgers onto this team, you'd have people in his camp. You would eventually have people saying, hey, we need to switch to JJ McCarthy. And like, that's, you don't want that. You don't want that in your locker room.
But all that quarterback talk that's been going on lately has been real interesting. Like the Sam Darnold report that Minnesota had an offer on the table for him, but it was less money than he wanted, and it was only 1 year. So he decided to go to Seattle, and that makes complete sense for me. I get it. Go get your big contract. Go get paid. Do your Sam Darnold thing. But that other report that came out, like, I think it was yesterday, about Daniel Jones, why he chose to go to Indy.
Well, I
That's
missed that
a lot
one.
more interesting.
What was that, Adam?
So apparently Minnesota had an offer on the table to Daniel Jones that was more money than he got in Indianapolis. But Daniel Jones didn't jump at it, and his indecision caused Minnesota to pull that offer right off the table when he didn't want to come here to Minnesota.
You know what? We'll address the elephant in the room. I'm not saying that he couldn't beat JJ McCarthy out, but the risk of injury with Anthony Richardson and already the commitments in question, I think he knows he probably has a better chance to start there. Is it a better
absolutely.
team? I don't think so.
But could he take that year in Minnesota and hone his skills and get even a bigger payday later? I think that would have been smarter for him.
I think
but
so
I don't
too.
blame him for wanting to cash in right now. But
Right.
It's weird that he would do that on a smaller deal in Indy right now.
Well, his decision making is not the best.
Holy shit.
And I think that applies both on the field and to, where he chose to play next.
I also, going back to the Aaron Rodgers stuff, I wanted to get that thought out. It's driving me nuts. You watch him play last year. And yeah, he played better towards the end of the year. Like Adam said, there was nothing left to play for but his pride. And you want to keep the locker room a little happy. Like all the guys in the locker room say they love him. For the most part, you hear that consistently every year. But I see a guy who doesn't want to get hit. And in turn, instead of doing the Peyton Manning thing where you're like, oh shit, get the ball out immediately, he hangs onto the ball too long because he doesn't want to turn it over.
But who would you rather? Would you rather have the uncle that's always there for you, looking after you, caring for you? Or would you rather have the uncle that shows up 3 times a year and brings you a gift?
Exactly. And that's my other point, Adam. I'm glad
that gift is polio.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
It's COVID because he's not vaccinated, right?
Yeah.
The other point, leading straight into it, Adam, is you made a good point, right? He's a first ballot Hall of Famer, no
Oh
doubt.
yeah.
He's great. He's a Super Bowl champ, four-time MVP. Great. He's starting to turn into a shell of himself. But the problem is, if this was Green Bay and he says, "Hey, I'll ride out my last 2 years," let's say the Jordan Love thing never happened, and it's the same team he's familiar with, same head coach. He says, "Hey, I'm old. I don't want to come to training camp," and they're like, "Okay, we'll work it out." You're going to a brand new team, and he's holding everyone hostage. That's the one thing that bothers me the most about this, brother. You've got two shitty teams fighting for you, and you're blowing them off. You're going to be
Yeah.
forced into retirement here in about 7 days because all they've got to do if they don't want
Here,
you is say, "Hey, New York. Hey, Cleveland. Hey, Tennessee. What's the price?" And that's it. They'll move on to something younger and way cheaper than you because that's the other part of this. Everything that I'm hearing from just watching the major networks is he wants starter money. Well, hell yeah, Minnesota's going to say no to that. Why would they pay him all that money at 41?
yeah.
No, you don't
And
have
look
to
at
do
everything
that.
Minnesota's been able to do on their roster with that extra money from not paying a quarterback that much money. They've been able to
Thank
improve
you.
so many areas of their team. It's been wild.
With Rodgers, though, I don't necessarily think that it's the Giants, Steelers, or retirement. Uh, for him, it's also we know he's not really that invested in off-season activities, training camp, preseason, that kind of stuff. There will be a starter somewhere in the league who gets hurt. And that opens up an opportunity for them to immediately call Aaron Rodgers should he be available. I mean, if Caleb Williams goes down with a freak injury for what they've invested on their offensive line and trying to put the right pieces and parts in place, they
Wouldn't
would
that be
be on the
hilarious?
they would be on the phone tomorrow with Aaron Rodgers to bring him in if something like that was to happen. So
But I don't
he
understand Rodgers' had his hesitation not to sign with Pittsburgh. He should be there right now.
100%. And it only feeds into him being a diva like he always has been. And I hate that because I want to like the guy. I like a person that's a little contrarian, just the spiteful piece of shit that I am personally. It's super petty. But you're right, Adam. He should have ran to Pittsburgh. Everyone loves Mike Tomlin
Oh yeah.
for whatever you want to say, like, oh, he won on Bill Cowher's roster, blah blah blah. Like, there is something to be said about being 500 or better every season. That's tough to do.
Jeff
That's
Fisher.
such a high floor.
You're right. We're 7-9 every year, baby. You were saying something there, and I forgot about it for Rodgers. But it's I don't know, man. Cleveland could be a player too if they want to pay. I know that they are paying Deshaun Watson, but you have to bite the bullet on that. That's what it is. I'm looking at the teams that absolutely need a quarterback. Like, I don't think New Orleans is out of that race. I don't know if they're in it, but they would call him. He's better than Derek Carr.
I think the absolute worst situation would be Tennessee. But for
Yeah,
some reason, I do think that Tennessee nightlife kind of fits for him. It feels like something that would work for him.
he's got a home there too. He's got a home in Nashville, so I mean, I see it. I don't know that it would be. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is for him. I wish that he would make a decision. It's really weird that he's taken this long and it only feeds into that, but that's right on brand for him. But the
But you remember that
Vikings,
narrative, though, that he was waiting on Minnesota, and that doesn't seem to be the case really at all.
right?
If he was waiting on Minnesota not directly but indirectly through Tom Pelissero leaked it that like we're moving on in another direction, so you can do what you need to do, Aaron Rodgers. I wanted to ask you guys your opinion on the idea that the Vikings entertained the notion of maybe offers on JJ McCarthy. Like they at least listened to it. Like, what's your guys' hot take on that? Because I can tell you
I think you'll
mine.
listen to any offer.
That's
Anytime
what
someone calls, you hear what they have to say. But I don't see them moving on him unless the offer was huge. And the speculation that was going around, like, oh, they're talking about packages to swap JJ McCarthy and send him to the Chargers. It's like, really?
For Adam's favorite quarterback, I would have loved to seen Justin Herbert in purple. I would have loved to have listened to that forever. I know what my point was earlier. You mentioned Caleb Williams getting hurt, and I said that would be great. I did not mean about Caleb Williams getting hurt. I mean, how funny would it be? The irony of Chicago absolutely fucking loathing that man and then having to root for him to be their quarterback. That was as diabolical as Brett Favre coming here as a longtime hated Packer. So that's what I meant. Caleb Williams, I'm not throwing any shade at you. at all. I think he's a good quarterback. I don't wish that upon him.
But the
No,
stuff
we aren't those guys.
And I agree with you, Adam, to use a phrase from Leslie Frazier that stuck with me for all these years. The Vikings were doing their due diligence on listening to phone calls about J.J. McCarthy. You're right. I think anytime a team calls you, if you're a smart general manager, you listen to what they have to say. Does that mean McCarthy, were they ever seriously entertaining trading him? No, I really don't think so. But if the Chargers were to call and say, hey, maybe we give you Justin Herbert, and maybe we throw in this, that, or the other thing. Like, you have to sit down with your staff and go, is this something we would be interested in?
But you got to look at it from the other angle too. If you don't put J.J. McCarthy on the trade block, and you have teams calling you to see about if he's available and what he could cost, that means he's a valuable commodity. People see potential in him.
Right on.
It speaks to this year's draft class, Adam, so much. Like Cam Ward, I don't know fuck all about Cam Ward. Excuse my language. I don't know anything. But I hear that he's going to go number 1 to Tennessee. That's what everybody on the major networks are saying.
Yep.
Todd McShay just went on Rich Eisen Day and said there's nothing going on in Tennessee as far as the way of like, I heard a trade rumor here. Like they're probably sticking with him and picking. Outside of him, I've heard Teddy Bridgewater is a comp for Shedeur Sanders. Take that as you will, for whatever that's worth, good and bad. I don't know. The kid from Louisville is getting a little bit of love, but outside of that, it's Travis Hunter because he's such a dynamic player, and then Abdul Carter because he's going to be like the next Micah Parsons. So J.J. McCarthy might have been the first pick in this year's draft had he stepped up this year.
I've heard analysts say that.
That's a legitimate argument. That
I did too, but I didn't believe it. I was like, there's no fucking way. Because my knock on J.J. McCarthy has always been, you're a product of the system you're in. Of course, any quarterback would thrive at Michigan. You don't have to do shit there. But I don't want to say that now because I want him to be successful for my team, and I love the kid. Like, everything you hear about him through the offseason after he got injured was, like, in the building every day, flying with the team when he was able. He's just a team player, which I love. And if you follow him on Instagram, the little shit that I love is Harrison Phillips gets this, or they sign this person, or Cam Bynum goes to Indy. He's like, hey, salute. Like, he's a teammate's teammate, which is great.
Yeah.
But, yeah, that's crazy to think because I didn't think that last year. I was like, I think they're kind of drafting a quarterback because they have to, not necessarily that they wanted to. Of course, I want him to be good. But
because Denver tricked Minnesota into it. That's what happened.
That's right, man. Sean Payton just playing chess. Everybody's playing checkers.
What I love about J.J. McCarthy, from what little we've got to see of him, the way he handles himself, he seems like the kind of player, like you said, Smith, that teammates are going to gravitate towards. He's going to be that leader. He's going to be that guy that pulls the locker room together as a rallying point. That's not something that the Vikings have had on other quarterbacks they've drafted.
I was shocked when Sam Darnold was kind of that guy.
Yeah. I would say they did with Teddy. I think the locker room did gravitate towards Teddy. You can argue whether or not the skill set was there necessarily, but like Ponder wasn't that guy. Tavares Jackson wasn't that guy. Like, those were not ones that the team really gravitated towards. McCarthy seems to have that, what do the kids call it, that it factor.
He's got aura, bro.
That aura, yeah.
I'm ready for Fire Breather to come in here and start talking about J.J. McCarthy's aura for 30 minutes. Where are you at, dude? But yeah, you're right. You got to be loved by your teammates because that means you're invested. Like, that's something big that I look at. I'll tell you something that's weird, and it kind of is in the neighborhood of this today, but it just popped up. YouTube Shorts. It's like TikTok on YouTube, right? I don't know why I hit it today, but it was the coolest thing. It's J.J. Watt when he's an Arizona Cardinal, which is still weird years later to say. Like, why?
Yeah, you almost forget about it.
Right? But there's a wide receiver there, and I don't know if it's the one we're going to talk about later. I don't know. I'll have to look it up. That'd be hilarious if it was. But a wide receiver's there, short, looks like a slot guy, and he's down. He goes, what's wrong? He goes, I dropped the ball. He goes, did it hit your hands? He goes, yeah. He goes, yeah, that's kind of your job description. He's like, it's fine. It's Wednesday. It's not Sunday. Stay after practice, catch this many balls, and do better. The kid was still beating him up. He goes, listen, I got knocked on my ass. I couldn't tell you how many times. You got to do it. And you think about that whole thing of him big brothering this young player is like, dude, that's invaluable right there. Like,
I've seen that exact clip, and yeah,
it's
you're
amazing,
right.
dude. It gives me goosebumps.
you always hear that guys are like a locker room leader, a leader on the field. Your JJ Watts, your Chad Greenways, and like that is exactly what that means to be that kind of a leader of
And
your
that's not his
teammates.
position. That's not his side of the ball. That's not any responsibility of his.
Yeah.
That's just him doing what he thinks is right, and that's fantastic.
And some guys don't have that.
Right.
Like that's not something you coach up. I'm gonna knock Kirk Cousins a little bit. Kirk Cousins was not that kind of rah rah pick yourself up kind of guy. He tried to force it, and it always looked kind of awkward. I think it's nice to see that McCarthy seems to have that natural leadership ability because you really need that
To be
from your
fair, the
quarterback.
Vikings coaches right now seem to want McCarthy around. I don't think Mike Zimmer was as welcoming.
as receptive.
That's
as
exactly
welcoming.
where I was going with
Yeah.
that. Adam, you beat me to it. Is, you know what? Kirk might have not been a rah rah guy, but when he did get fired up and grab Mike Zimmer by the collar, it always made me happy. Oh shit!
They were ready to throw fists so
They were
fast
too. It
during
was
that.
great.
So let's get into it. No Aaron Rodgers, which is a big relief for most of us because we, like I said, I think this fan base would have been ecstatic 5, 6, 7 years ago. Right now, he looks like a 75% version of himself, which is still really good. On paper, that might be better than
And there were a lot of Vikings fans that wanted to see Rodgers in purple,
Yeah,
and that's okay.
we'll agree to disagree.
I don't agree with them, but they're
Correct.
entitled to their opinion.
Sure. It's fine. You know, he might even be at this point better than what McCarthy is at this current moment. But with the way the salary cap is set up, then, I think it's smart. I think the Vikings did the right thing here to go forward with this because he's got a winning kind of moxie to him, which I love, JJ McCarthy.
Yeah.
And that's how you do with the salary cap. But
I mean, look, real quick to be realistic here. If you were to put $20 on who would win you an NFL football game right now, JJ McCarthy, who we've seen play half of a preseason game, or Aaron Rodgers, the safe bet is that you put your $20 on Aaron Rodgers to be able to lead you to that
Right.
win on the football field. Like that is the safe bet. So I do understand where fans are coming from on like the potential of wanting him to bring him to this team. I think the three of us are very firmly in the camp of they drafted McCarthy. We believe in him. The Vikings believe in him. Let's just move forward with that plan and let's just like stick on that path and
See, you're
not.
saying exactly the right thing because I'm used to Minnesota being this team. Like, they'll get the itch and they'll be like, okay, let's go all in every season.
yes.
Here's the carrot on the stick.
Oh,
Let's dangle
God.
the carrot on the stick. And like
And with
Aaron-
this plan, they're working for the future. We're
Correct.
saying, okay, in a few years, this team will be a contender. We're going to get pieces in place, grow and develop, not just be like, okay, we're a few pieces away. Let's throw these pieces in and see what happens.
Well, see, you guys nailed it. Let's put into action what happened over the last 15 years, or 16 years, counting the Favre year. So that Favre team was stacked, right? So you go all in. That's when you go in. The next season, I don't think they should have. They should have called them back. It's fine, whatever they did. But you go into these things where you have to put all your eggs in one basket at this position. You have to pay them well. So you can't do what the Vikings did last year, where you go and get 5 or 6 free agents that are B-plus players, right? If you do the same thing with Rodgers, if you put Rodgers on the team and you didn't get to beat, because you wouldn't get to add all these players, like you wouldn't get a Jonathan Allen, you wouldn't get a Will Fries, all this. Some of those people can't come because you have to pay him. Well, the quality of the protection goes down. Since I'm in a new place, you add it to be like, hey, I'm going to give you a brand new house and I'm going to fully furnish it. Okay, hell yeah. The negative is you're going to have to pay on it for a while. But, hey, cool. Or with Rodgers, you can move into this house that was built 20 years ago, but the roof needs to be changed and the plumbing's fucked. So which one do you want? I think it's so smart that they went with McCarthy and they also said, oh, hey, by the way, we're going to get you a new center, a new guard, and we're going to throw 2 big dudes in the back for the DT position. We're going to keep this corner that was great. We're going to add a corner from the Super Bowl champs. It's such a good thing to do. And really, you leave it up to him to be like, hey, we're doing everything we can to support you. Let's see if you're real or not. And that's what it is. And by the way, you get the coach of the year to help you out with that too.
Do you think Drake May is ready to have some swampy hands this season?
What does that mean?
Garrett Bradbury and his swampy butt?
Oh, Jesus Christ. I forgot about that. Yeah. Garrett Bradbury signed with the Patriots. Hey, salute to you, man. Thank you for your service here to the Vikings. No ill will wished upon you. Great dude. No distractions. not the best center in the league, but
good guy, real good guy off the
quality
field.
starter most of the
He
time.
gave the Vikings everything he had. That's for
Yeah,
sure.
quality starter most of the time. I saw it in the comments. Some of the Vikings fans on these pages, especially Instagram, they're like, "Good luck, look up the Giants film, this and that." And the Patriots fans are like, "That's still better than what we've had the last 5 years." So they're stoked to have him, which is cool. I like that there's an NC State center hiking the ball to a North Carolina Tar Heel. I'm just a dork about that. That's really funny. The only thing that would be better is if it was a Duke player.
Comment of the day right here in the chat.
Hey, look, it's Clint. That's my buddy Clint.
Clint, it's not a phase. It's a lifestyle. All right. Yeah, that's cool. Good for him. Garrett Bradbury getting a second chance. He's still kind of young too, so.
Oh yeah, he's what, 29, 30, somewhere in there.
Pretty sweet.
So yeah, he's not old by any means.
Let's talk about this though. I'm pumped about this news, and when it came out, it was kind of perfect because we had just finished, I think, the day before or 2 days before, about our first wave of free agency with all the big news. But the Vikings added running back Jordan Mason from the 49ers. He was their leading rusher last year because Christian McCaffrey had that lingering what was it?
He's old. Just say it.
Yeah, he's an old running back.
Yeah.
I can't remember. Was it an Achilles, like tendonitis or something like that? His Achilles were all jacked up. So Jordan Mason got the bulk of the carries, and he looked damn good last year. For a guy that none of us knew outside of San Francisco, never heard of him before, you're like, okay, cool. That's pretty sweet. It comes to show you, like, when they pay Brock Purdy, part of the reason you lose guys like this is because you got to pay Brock Purdy that kind of money. I'm pumped about this signing. Running back depth is great, and what this does echoes what we said last week of you get to do whatever you want in the draft now because you're hitting all these marks of, hey, I'm trying to cover all my bases, so when I get to the draft, I'm not pigeonholed in it. Well, I'm picking at 24. I got to take a guard.
So are you good at running back now, or are you still looking to add somebody?
Does Cam Akers stay? That's my only question. If Cam Akers stays, absolutely. If not, I don't know. Do you roll with – is it Ty Chandler that's the last one?
Yeah, he'd be running back 3.
Adam, I still believe that if you have a running back in this draft that you believe in, that's
there
available.
There are some excellent running backs in this draft.
I think you take one because Aaron Jones is only going to be here for a couple more seasons. What is it? Was it a 2-year contract?
Yeah, they're both here on 2-year deals now.
On 2-year deals. So you can draft a running back and be prepared for the inevitable Aaron Jones is going to be gone and off this team. It's a good position to kind of stack and have depth on because there's
let's be honest, Minnesota was lucky that Jones was able to play the entire season last year.
Right where I was going to go. That's also a position that you get hit with injuries more often than not. So having those extra running backs like on your roster is a good thing. So yeah, I could still see them drafting one.
I think the Vikings are a viable trade candidate out of the first round with only 4 picks. We talked about it last week.
100%.
Hilariously enough, I watched some mock drafts just because YouTube, and your phone is always listening to you. So I'll have some more in the morning when I wake up and go to my algorithm. But listening to full first round mocks, when Minnesota came up today, and I'm sorry I can't give credit where this is from because I forgot, but they said, hey, I'm ashamed, the author of this podcast and this draft said, I'm ashamed that I didn't do more research here. Minnesota only has 4 picks. What if Kansas City, Philly, anybody above them comes knocking? They're going to trade back. What if you get to that 30, 31, 32 range and then another team calls you and says, I need to come up and get this player for the 5th round option? Minnesota could have started the night off with 4 and ended up with like 7 or 8. If I were them, I would do that. And I am hoping and praying that's what happens. Because if you land at 30, or let's say the 30th pick, I don't know who that is, Detroit or Washington, cool. You go there and you say, okay, well, let me get right back into the first of the second, which is an extension of the first round. Because there's always some players, no matter what year it is, where you're like, that dude could have went in the first round easily. Like Dalvin Cook was a prime example. He was a second round pick. He could have went in the first.
So you want that Spielman wide net, huh?
I just think if you have more chances to swing, you have more chances to hit.
I would rather have like a sniper than a Tommy gun,
No, I would love that, but thus far, Kwesi is not that.
I'm kind of
Browns
in the
haven't had the
middle.
opportunity to see what he can really do yet.
I'm kind of in
After
the
3
middle
years,
on.
you don't know what he can do. I think that's a
I
fair
don't.
sample size.
Especially since that first year, he pretty much had none of his own notes. I'm excited to see what he can do this year.
I'm still mad at him for trading within the division and giving them players on that team.
That trade down and then seeing is the one that gets me.
Yeah, that was. Don't trade with your division rival, and definitely don't get a player that's going to be off your team in 3 years. That's why I shit on him about the draft.
Especially when a better player at the position you were going to draft is on the board.
Kyle Hamilton.
Yep.
Yeah, that one's gonna be rough to get from.
That hurts.
But you know what, Adam? To go back to your side, my brain always does this. I can argue with you one way, and then immediately my brain tries to find the other. If he nails it with JJ McCarthy, none of this shit matters.
And I'm not giving up on Dallas Turner by any means. I think he's a good
God,
player.
no.
Mekhi Blackman, we're going to see more of him this year, so I'm not ready to throw in the towel. There's a lot of question marks around some of the players that he's drafted, but I think everyone is way too focused on the misses rather than the potential of what could be really good players that he has brought in.
Yeah,
I agree.
Good, Andrew.
I agree with Andrew right here on the chat. Like, if you trade out of the first, like, give me 2 2s and a third, or that whatever. I don't really need the 6th or the 7th round.
I don't know if I'd want the picks in this draft. I would probably trade them for the next draft.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you get 2 2s, you'll get one this year and next year. And that's a good thing. You can call a team and say, hey, I just got another 2nd-round pick for next year. I'd like to forward that now. Would you like to do that? Sure, because I'm sure some teams that feel the same way, Adam. They're like, I'm not really in love with anybody here. Next year will be better. So, yeah, we'll take it. And to your point again,
How much?
Further that, don't forget he did draft Jordan Addison too. I mean,
yeah,
he's pretty good.
How much do you guys think that, like, the Vikings or any NFL team factors in that, like, we forget sometimes they're scouting more than just this year's draft class? Like, they're scouting players for next year and the following year and the following year.
I'm sure it happens all the time when they're watching tape on some player and some other guy jumps out when they're watching and being like, hey, keep an eye on that guy.
How much, though, do you think that does factor into, okay, we're to trade back in this year's draft, but we'll take a pick next year because maybe there's some mid-round running back that we're looking for that's going to be in next year's draft? Like, I wonder if that factors into it.
I don't think it would be a specific player, but I get what you're saying. Yeah, absolutely.
I do think that's something that really good scouts and GMs would do, is look that far ahead. I think a lot of teams might be really nearsighted and look at just the draft coming up and making sure to maximize that draft. But if you're going to be successful long term, you got to have that big picture in your head and on your team.
I think it too, Kyle, to your point, it's not a question of like, is it finite, yes or no? I think it's just what percentage. There's always a percentage where they're like, man, I don't really love it. Like, take the Eagles, for example, going into last year and going into that before they had to get rid of some players this year, right? They just wait for kick-ass players to fall in their lap because they've been murdering the draft and free agency the last 3 years. So when you go into it, you say, like, we don't have to do shit, really. We'll just see who's there, because if I really want someone, I've got players I can trade, or I've got picks I can trade, or I'll just let a great player fall to me.
Think about some of the best draft days in recent history. When Houston got their quarterback in the first round, then traded back up and got that big defensive lineman,
Will Anderson. Yep.
I mean, they killed the draft by targeting players, sniping them, and giving up what they needed to get for what they wanted. And that was amazing for them.
Yeah, and when I look at, like, 2 of my favorite Minnesota Vikings of all time and, like, how they came to be drafted by this team, it was not necessarily positions of need, like what Smith was talking about.
I know what you're talking about too.
It was best player available. Randy Moss falls to the Minnesota Vikings.
Minnesota didn't need him.
You got Chris Carter. You don't need Randy Moss, but you draft him anyway because he's best player available. Adrian Peterson. Chester Taylor was a 1,000-yard running back. You didn't need Adrian Peterson, but best player available. You draft him anyway.
That is what Brady Quinn at that point.
I wanted Brady. We were both on the Brady Quinn.
We were on that Brady Quinn train right there.
Brady Quinn train right there on that one. I'm glad I was wrong on that front.
Me too.
But, like, that's kind of where I'm with Smith, is that I do like the way this whole offseason has shaped up for the Vikings, where you can go, yeah, they probably still need a corner. yeah, you would maybe like to add a running back into the mix as well too at some point, but it's not a 100% need. You can look at the draft board and go, who's available? Let's take him, or let's trade back a little bit.
Because let's take a look at the draft right now. I mean, the first round, you're leaving yourself open. You can have a corner, a safety, a guard. I wouldn't even be mad if they took like a wide receiver or something like that, and
Yeah.
whatever was there for best available at that point. Even like a quarterback, running back, whatever. I get it.
I like
Someone
that they have options. Like I said earlier, I'm glad they're not pigeonholed. Being pigeonholed scares me because then you absolutely have to
then
win
you take Christian Ponder,
Yeah, that's what happens.
not to continually shit on Christian Ponder. It's
Hey,
not
you
his
can't
fault.
shit on that man. He won at life, dude. He got generational money, and he got like even though he didn't get like the Sam Bradford stuff. And don't get it twisted. NFL quarterbacks still make. If you get enough, in my opinion, if you get enough money where you could buy $100,000 car and you can buy a house in cash, what else do you need? Like, you're gonna work. All these guys, most of these guys, like the Phillip Rivers, the Tom Brady's, the Peyton Manning's, they don't have to work if they don't want to. But most of the NFL players, they get done and they work again after that. But if you don't have a mortgage, bro, you're killing it. And you got to marry Samantha Steele, get out of here. We can shit on Christian Ponder all we want. He could be like,
and let's be honest, even if you make the NFL, you're one of the best people in the world at what you do.
that is true.
Yeah, 100%.
Guys, I forgot about this. I was going to talk about Rondale Moore, but we'll get to him in a little bit. I forgot they signed Jeff Okudah. I wanted him so badly in 2020. I'm glad that didn't go because we got Justin Jefferson. But yeah, a number 3 overall or number 4 overall corner. He has not played up to expectations whatsoever thus far in his career. But now, when I'm reading this from the Twin Cities Pioneer Press, this is their current cornerback room. Byron Murphy Jr., Isaiah Rodgers, Mekhi Blackman, Dwight McGlothern, and now Jeff Okudah. I love that. It doesn't scream like all pros everywhere, but that is quality depth and different ranges and different types of players. I like that so much, and we were worried about this 2 weeks ago.
I still would love to see another corner be brought in. I mean, one with experience, like you could maybe pencil in as a starter. Because I know right now they probably have Byron Murphy inked in as one of those starters, and he should be for what he's getting paid, and the season he had last year. But right now I am worried about that spot opposite him, just like I'm a little worried about the spot opposite Harrison Smith at safety.
Right. I did like that contract, too. I read about it today with Byron Murphy. It's incentive-laden. I love that they do that for these players, especially one that's like hitting their prime or in their prime currently. I know if he makes an All-Pro, he gets this amount, Pro Bowl, a second-team All-Pro, Pro Bowl, number of interceptions, et cetera, et cetera. So motivate the player to go out and repeat the season that they had. That's pretty sweet. Free agent, unrestricted free agent. Let's do. Well, all these guys have already. I'm trying to find the ones that are available now to try to see who's available.
In our group chat, Smith told me about the Vikings signing Rondale Moore, and I admit I don't know a lot about him. I don't know if he plays special teams.
So
I don't know what his roles are.
Here's the deal with that. So he was with Arizona. He's very speedy. He's a shorter player, a slot guy, a special teams guy. So he'll get a chance there. He missed last season with injury. He doesn't have amazing stats through his short career, but he's only 24 years old. He's played 39 games, 135 catches over those couple seasons, 1,201 yards and 3 touchdowns. What I like is you sign him to play one kind of position. I don't need him to take reps away from Jefferson and Jordan Addison. But if you want to duke it out with Jalen Naylor and whomever else is there in the wide receiver room
right on.
for 3 or 4, that's exactly what it is. And here's the best part. Jefferson can do whatever he wants because he's the best in the NFL, right? Addison, we know what his skill set is. He'll do that. I need a guy in space where if our creative coach of the year can come up with like, hey, man, we're going to do these little bunch formations and I'm going to get you 5 or 6 yards of freedom. Dude, he'll have a year just like who was it? Jalen Naylor last year. I looked it up yesterday. Do you guys remember how many touchdowns Jalen Naylor had last year? It'll surprise you.
5?
6.
Yeah.
I would have never guessed that from last year. Now, maybe with Cousins, having certain targets that he loved, I would have guessed with Cousins at the helm, probably less than that. Sam had 35 last year, so it kind of makes sense. But that was still way above anybody's expectation. I'll go back on, find me the record where somebody said Jalen Naylor's season, like, look out. If he can have that here, I am all for that. And
So I
Jalen Mills.
just looked up Rondale Moore, and it looks like he's a pretty consistent 400-yard receiver, which is solid.
That's a great addition to this offense.
It looks like he has experience as a returner on kicks and punts, which is cool. He hasn't really played special teams since 21, which is a little scary, but that doesn't mean he won't do it in Minnesota.
He played at Purdue. He was a Big Ten receiver and freshman of the year when he was there too. So that's cool. I like the story. This is right. This is such a Quessy move of.
And he is smaller. He's 5'7", so he's not like he's going to go match up against big corners very well.
But look what happened.
From what I understand, is that he's a speedster.
Look what happened the last couple of years in a guy on the team who had some really good moments that was kind of underrated. He could replace Brandon Powell. Please. Go right ahead. That position is yours to take. That's who he could slide into. I'm excited about it because I see the upside, and this is very much a Quessy move. But I like that if he can stay healthy, hey, dude, there's going to be spots for you here.
Because right now we do have a roster right now where Minnesota is looking for that wide receiver 3, 4, 5 to work in whatever you need to be. Because let's be honest, Minnesota's very top heavy. You can't get much heavier than Justin Jefferson, and Jordan Addison's coming off a great season. But past that, what is there?
I really wanted Cooper Kupp in Minnesota. I thought the fit would have been really nice for him. That didn't end up working out. There was mutual interest supposedly, but he ended up signing with, I believe, was it the Chargers or the Rams? I don't remember which.
Who?
I wanted to say Seahawks.
Cooper Kupp.
No,
he went to the Seahawks.
Yeah,
Sorry, I was thinking of Devontae Adams. Devontae Adams went to the Rams, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm going to call it now. I don't know how the draft's going to go. I don't know how free agency is going to go. The Vikings are going to meet the Rams in the playoffs again, and they're going to beat us again because they're very good. And I'm annoyed, but they got rid of an aging Cooper Kupp, and I feel like Devontae Adams is about to have like a final revival year where he's like, hey, I told y'all I still fucking got it. I can see
Well, it's weird to I feel old seeing like Cooper Kupp getting shipped out and, Puka Nacua being the number one there, and then DK Metcalf getting a little older and getting shipped out, and JSN being the number one there. And it's like, the guys that I grew up being number ones for these teams aren't the number ones anymore.
Right. We're all getting old, man. Thank you for that. That's a good reminder. No, it's cool. Kudos to them. Like you said, DK and George Pickens should be a fit to deal with in Pittsburgh. Cooper Kupp will have some flashy moments in Seattle. And Devontae Adams in LA, like that makes all the sense in the world. Didn't know that was going to happen, but to me, that makes sense, and I feel like he'll have a little bit of a career resurgence there because Sean McVay is too good to not.
As far as I know, Jordan Addison has not been handed down any suspension from the league, and the team said they were going to wait for the league to make some sort of opinion on that. So, as of right now, there's nothing going on with Addison, but there might be. You never know.
That'd be wild if nothing comes of that. That would be insane.
Well, the league will wait until preseason game number 4 to suspend him, just to fuck the Vikings as much as possible. We are old. There isn't 4 preseason games anymore, is there? I forgot.
Oh, that's right, dude.
So how do you guys feel with the Packers wanting to push through that rule to ban the tush push?
I'm 50-50 on it, man. Like, if you're really good at something, find a way to stop it. But also, like, I'm kind of sick of it because we can't do it well.
And then the Lions pushed through that proposed rule change.
I love that
for playoff seeding.
God, I love that. So Adam's talking about the Lions doing what I said on the show that should have happened. The Vikings should not have been a road team last year, winning 14 games. I could give a shit less what division you're in. The Carolina Panthers for years were hosting playoff games at 7-9, and that's bullshit. The whole reason, in my opinion, come at me if you want, crucify me for this, but I find it hard for you to prove something better and smarter than this. The whole reason you play any kind of sport as a team or individual is to win. Well, if I win more than you, I should have more currency when it comes to this or that. Well, win your division. Well, you play a bunch of fuck-ass teams who suck, and I play 2 teams that are going to the playoffs. I'm sorry, the other teams in your division don't know how to draft, and mine are really good at coaching and drafting.
But I do feel like the divisions need to mean something, and if you have the 4 division winners and 3 wild cards, you solidify those 7 teams, and then you list them based on their record. I think that's the way it should be.
Explain that again. Maybe I'm dumb and didn't hear that
The
right.
4 division winners,
Sure.
and then 3 wild cards, and those are your 7 playoff teams.
Right.
In the conference.
Like they have it right now.
And then you list them by record, not by the division winner.
Yeah, exactly. Whoever wins the most gets the 1 seed and so on and so forth down. The Vikings would have been the 2 seed last year or at the 3. And they would have hosted the game. Like, I don't understand that. I love that they're pushing for this because it makes sense. And to come from a player that I don't really like when he plays because he's very good and he kind of talks shit sometimes. Amon-Ra St. Brown defended the Vikings about this. They were like, yeah, they should definitely get to host a game. They won 14 games. So I get it. I'm with it. I understand the notion, what you're saying, Adam, like the division should mean something, but when it comes down to it, I don't care about the nostalgia or anything like that. Like, you're supposed to win games. That's point blank. That's the end of the day. Like,
I just don't want to see a division winner not be in the playoff picture.
Correct.
That's what I don't want to happen.
Correct. I see that. I can understand that. Yeah. So that could be it. If they find a way to do that, like you said, division winners all go, but once everybody's in, here's
why it will never. Here is why it will never pass. And I just happen to be wearing a 2017 Division Champs T-shirt right now, and it fits in perfect to what I'm about to say. There is so much marketing in the NFL. There is so much merchandise that gets sold based on winning your division, and any possible change that the business of the NFL will do that will hurt winning your division, they're not going to vote for it. They will never vote for the possibility of me not buying a division like T-shirt.
Andrew is saying exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, like they're not going to do it. Also, I think that like the shitty teams out there are going to say we're never going to vote for that because we're bad all the time on the off chance that we win our division once every 15 years. Like
Jacksonville.
Like I don't care if we have a shit record. We want that home playoff.
Well, here's the thing, Kyle. This goes right into what you want to change. Fire away with your proposal, which I vehemently disagree with, and we can talk about it.
Top 10 picks, top 15 picks in the draft. Fuck it, the whole first round. I don't care. Let's do chaos. I don't care. No, you give me the NBA lottery system where we're just like, hey, random. We're going to make it random because I am tired of really good quarterbacks going to shit teams and then we just ruin them within 3 years and like you're fucking done. Like we've ruined your career now. Like
see, I don't think the NFL has had that major problem with tanking yet. Or at least I haven't seen it too bad in my, history as a watcher.
No, definitely.
Do that with how physical the game is. To ask guys to throw games, they would be like, "Go fuck yourself! I'm not doing that."
Right.
And not only that whole like,
and how short the season is.
Yeah, well, not only that, how much of an alpha the whole locker room is, but most of these guys aren't Brady and Rodgers and Manning. Like most of these dudes play for 2 or 3 years and they're done. They're like, hey, I got to go out and make plays so I can continue to make this huge money.
Right.
Because this is the only chance I'm ever going to get to do it. So that's the whole thing. Like, I always love when people are like, tank for Tua. I'm like, go tell a locker room of 53 fucking animals that and see how quickly you change your tone.
Especially because out of those 53, how many are even going to be on that roster next year? So if you tank for Tua, how many of those guys are even going to benefit from it? Like,
or even like how many of those guys might not even be in the league?
Right.
And then not to mention that is the coaches. Like, look at Brian Flores. He's a great example. Speaking of Tua and how full circle this is, he should be a head coach. He's not because of all the shit that happened. And while he does bear a little percentage somewhere of like that probably is on you for being an asshole, think about when the coaches get fired. You know how long it takes for them to get a second chance to be a head coach? That's all these guys ever want to do is be like, I want to run a team to see if I can win a Super Bowl. That's all they all want to do. They all want that. So when they get fired, that resets to like, hey, you better do what Cliff Kingsbury and Dan Quinn did in year one, and you better do that again and again. You'll get a real quick turnaround. Most of that time, it doesn't have. Most of the time, you get Freddie Kitchens, and that's not how it works. Like, He's good. He'll get another job as an assistant somewhere, but head coaching, you might get 2 opportunities if you're very good at what you do.
Yeah, there have been some real dipshit like coaching hires out there that it makes you wonder how come someone like a Leslie Frazier, I feel like should have got a second opportunity somewhere as a head coach in the NFL over top of Urban Meyer, for example.
I know I might be alone on this, but I am super excited to watch the Jacksonville Jaguars this year because I don't believe right now, and I want them to show me that I am an idiot.
Well, I'm sad that they took Johnny Munt away from me, so fuck them and fuck Grant Udinsky for leaving. All right? You broke my heart. I wanted you to stay.
I like the way I said dipshit head coach, and you immediately went to Jacksonville.
Hey,
when all you get interviews is people wanting him to say Duval, I mean, that's all it is.
Yeah, when you're a cornball, like a professional cornball, you deserve it. I can't help it.
Yeah.
That's funny.
I want to see like video of him in the locker room. I want to see him command a locker room because right now I don't know if he could.
Oh, yeah, like you know how we've seen videos of like Pete Carroll. I love Pete Carroll. He can rally a locker room. He can rally players on the field, and like, oh, I understand why players want to play for Pete Carroll. Like, I get that. I don't get that from the head coach of the Jaguars at all.
Like when you watch a video of the Detroit Lions locker room, that coach has that locker room.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Even Mike Zimmer for a little bit. Like you could be like, I understand why players would want to play for a Mike Zimmer before he burned enough bridges.
Right.
I love this.
But you see the love that the current Minnesota Vikings have for Kevin O'Connell. It's amazing to watch the respect and just the admiration they have for him. It's great to see.
I've seen an argument online, speaking of Kevin O'Connell, that is he too nice? Like, were the Vikings too nice to Aaron Rodgers to drag this out as long as they did before they told him, no, we're not interested? Like,
I think there's the storefront Kevin O'Connell that talks to the media that we all get to see.
Yeah.
And then I think there's the coach Kevin O'Connell that is different a little bit, and that's not the guy we get to see, but that's the guy that is in that room with Kwesi talking about what's going on in that locker room with his players being tough. I think that there's 2 different Kevin O'Connells out there, and
100%.
we only get the soft version.
Who is it that's there? Oh, there we go. I'm reading Adam's articles on the Viking. I'm clicking through these so you get more numbers.
I appreciate it.
Of course. It's hilarious, man. Thought that Garrett Bradbury might go to Seattle. He ended up going to New England. That's cool. I'm looking at this too, just to talk about some stuff while we round the show out and wrap it up. If you guys don't have anything else, Danielle Hunter.
Oh yeah,
him, dude. Good for him. You guys go check out Adam's article, but
yeah, good on him for getting that raise.
He got a raise, and I didn't know that he had a career high 12 sacks last year. So good for him. Tied with Jonathan Bernard.
I don't think he had a career high in sacks, but I think he had a career high in quarterback hits.
Oh, that's what I read in your thing. My bad. Yeah, I'm happy for him. We all loved Danielle Hunter here. We knew that it was probably time last season, and it kind of made sense. And
what was amazing that they were able to take that money and that position that they had for Danielle Hunter and turn that into a really strong pass rush on both sides of the defense.
It was an odd scenario that doesn't happen too often where Danielle Hunter, still a really good player, just wasn't a scheme fit. It made sense. It made sense for both sides to find a way to kind of mutually part with one another.
And this completely made sense for both Houston and Minnesota to do this trade.
It really did.
But for both sides to really value and be able to work out what happened.
So this is interesting because I'm a dork about this stuff. So he's drafted by the Vikings in 2015. Didn't start. Had 6 sacks. Didn't start, I think, again in 2016. He didn't start until 2017.
Well, when the Vikings drafted him, there were a lot of people that were like, why would they draft this completely raw player that's going to take years to develop into a pass rusher?
I remember that. I remember
that, and I remember 2016. I remember that season. I was there for one of the games where he demolished Cam Newton, and they sacked him like 9 times. That's hilarious. So I'm looking here. 2 seasons. First season was, like pretty much a redshirt year. Get in there with the rotation. 2017, I believe he got hurt because one of those was a tweak, And then the other that has 6 sacks in 2021, he had something wrong with his neck. So one was a pec and one was a neck. He's going into year 10. He has 99 and a half sacks. Holy shit, dude. And 2 or 3 of those years, he only got 6, 7, and 6 sacks. Dude is a monster.
Well, it's kind of crazy, too, to think, like, the players that were keeping Danielle Hunter from getting in the lineup, he had some tough players to beat out to get on the field. And
fucking Jared Allen.
Dallas Turner is in that situation right now, too. If not for the players ahead of him, he would be on the field, and I think he'd be getting great numbers.
The comparison between Danielle Hunter and Turner is, I think, really a good comparison, Adam, because it's going to be close to the same situation where Turner is going to get a contract extension, and I think people on the outside are going to go, well, I haven't seen him do anything, just like Danielle Hunter.
People are calling him a bust right now, and I don't get it.
It's ridiculous, dude. He's fine. He's going to be fine. He's going to be great.
Yeah, it's weird. It's like people coming out. Like, there's good content creators that I like that are funny.
Luke Braun?
YouTube. God. And YouTube, and they'll put out stuff like, I just saw a video yesterday. It was like grading the 2024 draft class. Why?
How?
Why? It's been 1 year. So if the guy gets injured, like, oh, he's a bust. He didn't play. It's like, well, he got injured. Well, he's a bust. And if that's the case, then the Vikings tanked last year because they didn't get a lot of production from Dallas Turner and J.J. McCarthy got hurt. How can you put out a draft video?
You cannot do that, because if you looked at RG3 after his rookie year, you're putting RG3 in the Hall of Fame because that was a spectacular rookie season.
Especially
and then guess what? Didn't work out. Did not work out long term. You cannot judge a draft class after 1 year.
It's weird. That's a thing, but it's out there. Like,
yeah,
crazy. But that's pretty much all I have.
Apparently, people were expecting Rondale Moore to sign with the Texans, and I didn't know that Rondale Moore was like expected to sign with the Titans.
Oh, I know.
And then he ended up signing with Minnesota. I didn't know that.
Real quick, I wanted to mention Stephon Diggs taking a visit with New England. He is a free agent, so we might see former Minnesota Viking, Minneapolis Miracle receiver Stephon Diggs as a New England Patriot.
Yeah, I watched a lot of the Rich Eisen show, and Chris Brockman is one of the co-hosts, one of the producers. He's a big Patriots fan, and he's, they're saying that, well, he's a big name. You're going to pay him that Devontae Adams money, that DK money, and he goes, absolutely not. Well, why not? He's 30 or 31 coming off an ACL. We're not paying him that. It's like,
I was going to say, was he hurt quite a bit last year for the Texans?
I don't remember what game he got hurt in, but I think it's funny that New England has the cash and they're desperate enough to need a number one where it's like that he might get overpaid somewhere.
Yeah. I would not pay Stephon Diggs at this point in his career.
It wouldn't start with a 3.
He would be
hell no.
Dude, he would be my wide receiver 3.
Well, not in New England. New England, he's going to beat everybody because they have nothing out there.
Yeah.
But it's much like, I don't know, maybe LA is a little better. Like the Chargers could use a receiver too, but I don't know.
Carolina ought to just call him. Put him and Thielen back together.
I mean, they do
it.
That would be pretty fun.
Yeah.
So I also don't know a lot about this Tim Jones that they signed. Do you know anything about Tim Jones?
Who the hell is Tim Jones?
The wide receiver the Vikings signed.
Oh, that's right. Let's look it up because I forgot about that piece of information. From Jacksonville. Let's look up some stats here. Has he caught an NFL pass before? He has. Career. So he's only 26. Career reception 17. No touchdowns. 154 yards. Special teamer. It sounds like.
What kind of height does he have? Is he a tall guy?
6'1", 200 pounds.
So he's got a little bit of size.
Born in 1998. So, yeah, he'll be 27 this year.
Yeah, okay. I'll take that. He plays some special teams. He'll fight it out for 4th or 5th.
What's new, pussycat? Indeed.
That's hilarious. I think that's it, boys. We're hitting 1 hour as we speak.
Are we gonna end on Tom Jones?
Be
Well, let's
excited.
finish off by talking about. Do you guys all think that Minnesota is going to sign a veteran quarterback before the start of the season here? Or
I'm
before the
mad they
start of
didn't
the
go
training
after
camp?
Taylor Heineke. They should have, but you know what? That I think the move right now should be for Aiden O'Connell. I don't know how you do that, but that's not my job to figure out. So Aiden O'Connell would be a great backup.
I've
Gardner
been hearing a lot of
Minshew.
people rallying for Jameis.
Dude, sign me the fuck up for some Jameis Winston soundbite. I don't give a shit what he brings to the locker room at all, other than he's fun and awesome. And God, I would love to see him in purple acting a fucking idiot. That would make my day so much better. Jameis, Gardner Minshew, Aiden O'Connell, any one of those three, like I would love that. I would absolutely love it.
How about you, Wes? What do you want to see?
They have to. They have to bring in a veteran quarterback. Like, I love JJ McCarthy, but you've got to go after a Joe Flacco or someone out there who's that veteran presence to bring into the locker room to be, to help mentor him. Not that I think he needs to be mentored, but like
So, what
you
is more
need to
important at
have
this
that.
point? Is it the mentor or is it having a high ceiling backup?
I think having the mentor, like the Joe Flacco mentorship rule, is more important to me.
Because there's kind of that balance, because you never know. Like, sure, JJ McCarthy's going to start the season, but will he be able to play a lot of games, or will he be ready to start right away? It sounds like his recovery has got him on track to start the season,
Yep.
which is great.
Right.
But you do kind of want to have that quarterback that can step in if needed.
Flacco, Andrew says, yeah, I don't either one. Like I let the coaches do what the coaches do. I don't care either way. If your starter goes down, I mean, you should lower your expectations regardless. That's why they have depth. But it depends on what they think he needs more of. Does he need someone who's younger who might push him to play better? Not
You
to
know,
feel.
David, I have an article about that coming out in the morning.
Oh, that's funny as shit.
I wouldn't hate it, David. I really wouldn't hate it.
I would hate it. I don't want it, and I kid him out.
Depending on the cost, we'll see.
Mm-mm.
If
I
Atlanta,
will slam the table. I will slam my fist through the table. We saw that. We know what it is. He's older. He just had an Achilles burst a year and a half ago. I'm good. We got that T-shirt. We know what that
but
is.
if you're bringing Kirk back, and if Atlanta is paying a part of his salary to come be our backup, I'm okay with that. The reason why I'm okay with that is because the Vikings have kind of fucked themselves in this quarterback position right now, other than McCarthy. Like they you'd need to have someone back there.
But see, the problem that I have in that situation is that I wouldn't want Kirk there, because if JJ McCarthy makes those mistakes that a young quarterback is going to make, the fan base, everybody's going to be crying for Kirk to start because he's got that experience.
Do you think?
Well, not only that, I think he's probably better than JJ at this point. Even though he's slower, dude, he's accurate as shit, and he knows the system. He's going to want to go. That's why I don't think it's going to happen regardless. He's going to go somewhere where he says, hey, I'm starting or I'm not playing. He's got enough money he could start a freaking empire right now. So
yeah, I don't think he's going to take backup money wherever he goes.
Not even backup money. It's like, hey, I'm 37. I got 2 or 3 good years left. You need a quarterback. What's up? Like, Cleveland would love to have him. He's got a relationship with Kevin Stefanski of some sort.
I still can't believe that Atlanta held on to him and paid him that bonus by having him on the roster at that date.
Yeah, it goes to $10 million next year. That's guaranteed. Like
they are
the century.
They are banking on someone getting hurt and being able to do the Sam Bradford to Minnesota trade, where someone is going to be like, we will overpay to give you a draft pick for Kirk Cousins.
And they're going to have to get Kirk to agree to that. That's a wild part.
Well,
yeah,
you say that, Adam, but he wants out of there is what I've been hearing on all these major networks is like, I think he'll do that, and he's going to get paid regardless because his contract is guaranteed. It just matters who's going to pick up the tab.
Right.
But like you said, why would he come here when he could start in New York or start in Pittsburgh or start in Cleveland? He's going to want to start somewhere. I think that's what he wants to prove, and that's why I don't want him here.
I don't know if starting is as important as getting that starting money and securing his future, his child's future, and all that. I think he'd take a big payday to be a backup if that was the right role at the time, but I don't think being a starting quarterback is his top priority anymore.
You don't think so?
I don't think so.
Because his
I
money's
mean, don't get me
guaranteed.
wrong, I think he would want to. I think he has that fire. But I also think he's smart enough to know that taking the money and being that backup competitive guy might not be a terrible thing at this point in his career.
It's just the money for me. Like he had a fully guaranteed contract. That money's not going anywhere. It just depends who's going to pay for it. So,
But when you can double dip, I mean, why not?
no,
Right.
of course, I'm not saying that. I'm just, hey, I'm going to get paid regardless. Like, you three need a quarterback, and you're asking me to be the backup. Well, these three here will let me play because I still want to play. Because the thing for him and most of these guys is he didn't play very well. He played like shit last year. Most of the games.
He was bad.
And I love that he went to Philly and won in overtime. I watched that game. It was crazy. But he got benched at the end of the year because he was playing terrible. I don't think he wants to go out like that. Much like Rodgers. Rodgers doesn't want to go out with a 5-win Jets team. Like, he wants to go out and sling it one more time. So where do you get the best chance to do that? Well, a team that's going to let me have, the driver's seat there. But it's bad. None of these options for him are good. Cleveland's not good. The Giants are awful. Pittsburgh makes the most sense, but I feel like Pittsburgh is waiting for Aaron Rodgers. I'd be calling Atlanta and be like, what do you want for Cousins?
And Tennessee might be the worst fit for him that there is.
I don't have anybody. They suck.
It's not a good situation at all.
Andrew with the comment of the day. If we paid 25 last year, they can pay us 25 for this year. Oh, that's fucking hilarious. My goodness. Yeah. Good, bad, or indifferent. That man has the agent of the century. I'll give him that.
I thought I read some crazy stat that said that Kirk Cousins made as much money in his career as what Tom Brady did.
This is correct.
He made more.
He made more money than Tom Brady. So, dude could take a pay cut and be a backup somewhere. Like
He has one. Think about what you just said, Kyle. Tom Brady went to 10 Super Bowls. He played in 10 Super Bowls. Kirk Cousins has one playoff win. And he got paid.
You guys thought I was joking. I almost wasn't joking when I said the best thing Kirk Cousins did for the Minnesota Vikings was the fucking comp pick that he got for us for leaving the team. And it's almost true.
Listen, I don't hate him as a person. I think he's a
I really don't.
I think he was grossly overpaid. I think we can all agree. But you can't, at the same time, that rolls off my tongue. Any one of us in that position would have done the same exact thing. And he can also, if he was that guy, which he's not, he could go, I was one of the best in the world for a decade at my job. Were you? Cool. Maybe if you were this good at something that pays this well, you could do what I did. I totally get it. But as a fan of the team, he fucking robbed this team blind. He did.
And he was put in a terrible situation with Zimmer and Spielman. So
every time I say something bad, you come back here with a counterpoint, and it's absolutely true. It's absolutely true. How do you not meet with your quarterback for 4 years until the very last year when there's already an iceberg that's hit twice? So you're like, well, I guess we can have coffee now. Like, what?
It's crazy absolutely wild.
You're on the Titanic and the band is playing, and you're like, hey, we should look for icebergs, guys.
David makes a good point here too. I mean, Cam Robinson just got paid. He should get Minnesota a comp pick too, and
where did he
did
go?
Real well for Minnesota while he was here, and good on him getting a good payday. I saw a lot of people saying that they overpaid for him, but I thought Cam Robinson was very good in Minnesota.
Where did he go, Robinson? Texans reach 1-year deal. Oh, cool. Okay, so he's going to swap with Laramie Tunsil.
Right.
Nice.
Good for him. Good for the Texans, dude. He's a solid player. I like that.
Yeah, they got a good guy.
Good. Hey, shout out to my buddy David. He's from the area I'm from in Charlotte. That's dope, man. That's a good talking point there. I didn't know that. I didn't see that he got signed. So.
Yeah, what was it? $15 million, I think.
Let's see. NFL.com. Texans signed offensive tackle Cam Robinson to a 1-year deal. Do we have numbers here? I don't see numbers.
I thought it was 15.
Maybe it'll be on ESPN. If not, I'm not that worried about it. Yep, the deal can max out at $14.5 million next season.
Not bad. Good
for him. Yeah.
Love to see that kind of stuff happening for good players. And I remember last week we had that conversation about fullbacks, and San Francisco signed theirs back. So good for the fullbacks.
So in the chat, I was like, "Take less money, peasant! You 9-time Pro Bowler, you." We got to pay the mystery man at the very last. What do they call it? Mr. Irrelevant. We got to pay Mr. Irrelevant $50 million a year. Get in the back of the line. Oh.
Well, I do want to thank every one of you for hanging out. Check out my work over on the Viking Age. I'm at social media at MNVikingZombie, wherever you guys interact. I'm on, the TikToks. I'm on the X's. I'm on the Blue Sky. Wherever you guys consume your social media, I'm probably there.
Do it. Click through Adam's articles. I just did that while we were on the show and help him pay his light bill.
I am on Blue Sky at Vaguely Square. You can give me a follow if you would like to. We can talk about Minnesota Vikings football or movies, or I share some of my photography work sometimes.
How about meat? Can they talk to you about meat?
We could. I do enough of that at work and don't want to talk about it on social media, but we could.
Our local meat expert.
So what's the difference between ground round and ground chuck?
The same thing, sir.
Fun fact, Kyle, you will laugh at this. Adam, you probably will too, just because of how stupid I felt through this. Please, everyone take a moment to laugh at my stupidity. So I don't know if you guys ever do this, but when I leave the grocery store, if there is something close by, because every time I walk in the grocery store, it doesn't matter if I just ate, I'm like, damn, I could use a snack, I'm hungry, whatever. Seeing the food makes me want food. So there's a Subway at this local food line down the road. So I went to get a sub yesterday, ate the sub when I got home, went to bed, and at 10:30 I realized 3 pounds of chicken thighs, 2 pounds of ground beef, and burgers that I was going to make were left in the car since 6 p.m.
Oh, boy.
I was furious this morning. I was so mad last night at like 11. I was like, well, they're packaged and they're in a bag. They're not going to leak. I'll get them in the morning. So I went back today, and the lady goes, did I see you yesterday? I was like, I don't want to talk about it. She goes, what happened? I was like, I don't want to tell you, but I'm going to tell you. So remember your stuff in the car.
You know what this reminds me of? That episode of The Simpsons where they're chasing that pig in the river. It's still good. It's still good.
My dog knows every time when we're about to be done. That's so funny. He always hops off the couch.
So do we got any updates from you, Smith?
Nope. I downsized my social media. You can follow me at NCDogDude on Instagram. Otherwise, I'm not looking at or answering anything. I am such a bait for negativity on the internet. I completely deleted my Twitter. I took TikTok and Facebook off my phone.
Social media is pretty brutal right now.
I'm tired of it, man. Even with the stuff, I don't even get into politics on there, but even with the sports stuff, I find myself going in to correct people, and I'm like, don't be a negative piece of crap. Just people have opinions and they're dumb. Just let them be dumb. So I just took it away. I like Instagram, but truthfully, if I could get to the point where I don't have anything, I'll be happy.
I just want to look at the pretty pictures.
I like the pretty pictures, and if you want to get a hold of me, you can text me. That's it.
So do you follow Sydney Sweeney on there?
I do not.
Oh, boy.
Mm-mm.
But you know who you should follow everywhere is the Purple People Podcast. Please like, follow, subscribe, comment, review, whatever you can do to keep this podcast going. I know we're almost 600 episodes strong, but we could always use help because it's a never-ending process here. And we will be back next week. I don't know how much more Vikings news we're going to have, but there should be something going on. And hopefully we'll talk about it. So in the meantime, stay classy, Minnesota.